Before you write a single line of code, some of the most important decisions about your product have already been made. Today, we discuss how to prevent those failures before development even begins, and how to get clear on your goals, your users, the problems you're actually trying to solve, and help you build things right from the start. Welcome to WP Product Talk.
This is WP Product Talk, a place where every week we bring you insights, product marketing, business management and growth, customer experience, product development, and more. It's your go-to podcast for WordPress product owners by WordPress product owners. And now, enjoy the show.
Welcome to WP Product Talk. Before we get started, if you benefit from the show, we'd love your support. And the easiest way to show us support is to hit subscribe right now. It only takes a second and it makes a big difference. So please do that. And thank you so much.
Yeah, awesome. And thanks so much to Freemius for being our exclusive growth partner, helping software makers grow, monetize, and succeed. It's a merchant of record platform handling everything around selling software. So check out payments, subscriptions, licensing, global tax compliance, all the junk so you can focus on building great software.
Yeah, so let's jump into the topic of clarifying and aligning on your strategy to build better software. For this, we've invited Brad to the show. Brad, welcome.
Hi, thanks. Appreciate you having me, Zack and Ian.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. Please introduce yourself.
Sure. Yeah, I'm Brad Griffith. I run a company called Buckeye Innovation. We're located in Columbus, Ohio, in New Albany, a suburb. I've got a team of 12. It's fully remote. So while I'm here, we have people who are spread throughout the country. We want to make a difference in people's lives. We want to work with nonprofit organizations and local governments who are bridging equity gaps. They're finding people who have differences in access to resources and opportunity and information, and they're trying to bridge those gaps. And we build technology that allows them to help more people. So we do a lot of WordPress work. I've got the agency side of the business that builds marketing sites and e-commerce sites. We do a little bit of WooCommerce. We do plenty with WordPress and Elementor and Gravity Forms and a lot of the same stuff that you guys work with. And then we've got a software development side of the business that's more custom web applications and web apps, mobile apps, things like that. So I'm personally building a lot of products these days. So I'm particularly excited to be on this show with you guys to talk about building products and monetizing those and what's the strategy around that. Most of the products that I'm building are less WordPress related than our creative pod that's building marketing sites. But I started as an engineer. I won't bore you too much with the background, but I grew up in an entrepreneurial family, went to college for engineering, and then went back, got my business degree, started my business 17 years ago. So I've got some experience building software, and I'm looking forward to learning from you guys today as well about how you've built products, because I'm a little bit newer to that, building and commercializing my own products side of things.
Very cool. Well, welcome. For those of you watching live on YouTube, please leave your comments, questions, or feedback in the comments section, and we will highlight your questions and comments to discuss live on the show. So, Brad, AI is making product development a heck of a lot easier, I think, right? Like you can write a ton of code, you can have a marketing site. Does any of that matter if you don't have strategy?
So, well, it doesn't even matter. I mean, maybe a rhetorical question. I think it is very cool to be able to build stuff, even if you don't have a strategy behind it. Experimenting, I do think, is cool to see what's possible, but you're not going to go anywhere with it. Like if you don't have a good strategy, if you're building a product, you're building a solution that is in seek of a problem, that's not good. Like you want to build a product that solves a problem. You have a problem that you want to solve. A lot of people will say, I'm just going to build this thing. I've got an idea. And then you say, well, does anyone actually want that product that you're building? They may not. So cool being able to build stuff.
I mean, it used to be a lot harder too. Like you wouldn't be able to just go and, invest a bunch of time and tokens into getting something up and running. Something that I do find interesting though, is that you're coming from like the agency side of things, moving into building products. That is something that I think a lot of the folks that, listen to the show, watch the show, are probably experiencing. And there's a question that I really think about a lot with, now that AI makes everything easy, is as agencies get more and more into building products, how do you sort of understand, when you're building for one user versus building for a potential many users? Like, how do you bridge that gap?
That's I'd love to learn from you guys how you bridge that gap. I've found it pretty interesting. We've got a few products that we're building, a volunteer management system, an event ticketing system that can be used by nonprofits. So if you have events, you've got volunteers who are helping to run the event, as well as some paid tickets. We've launched that. I think we have now 3 main customers for it. So when you're building for that first customer, well, I think most of us, did you guys build your product for you first? Like when the first product, you've built a lot of things now.
I built a product for myself, but not GravityKit.
Yeah. Anything I've built for myself, I probably haven't released really. We end up using our own tools eventually. Sure. But typically, we're building for other people to sell things versus building for ourselves.
But like when you built something, it was something that you could use, right? Like you had experience as your ideal customer potentially.
Yeah. Well, so there's like, for myself, I spent a lot of time in literally just doing support for e-commerce stores, getting a lot of questions from a lot of people, and, eventually understand what those people need, people looking from a various market or whatever. I'm hearing for you though, so you've already been working specifically with nonprofits for a while. So you've sort of, as an agency, you had a bit of a niche where you could focus on the needs of a subset of users instead of just one user. Is that
right?
Kind of what I'm hearing?
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand your users and what they need, because a lot of people, I've had team members done this. I've even done this for some things, and some of the products that I built, it's just something that I can use. Or I'm a girl dad, if my daughters want to do something for their Girl Scout cookie sales, I have built way more software than I probably should have for Girl Scout cookie sales orchestration, like the logistics of Girl Scout cookie sales. Sometimes when we build something, it's just, I'm building something for my own needs, and I think that the world is going to love it, and it's going to make me a millionaire. And you realize, oh wait, I have one customer, and I will only ever have one customer because I'm the only one who thinks this way and needs this specific product. So to get at your question or prompt, I do think it's very important to understand, how can I build a product that's scalable, that multiple people can use. It's very tempting when I want to build something, I think, oh, well, this one person is willing to pay me for customization, I'm going to do that because they're going to pay. And that gets dangerous very quickly.
And how does the total addressable market change your strategic thinking? Because what if it's a small total addressable market, and yet those people would pay a lot for it? Like, that is a product choice that you can make to really drill down into a very niche area and fit their needs exactly.
Yeah. Well, so I built one product. I won't go into deep specifics on this, but it's for an ice cream shop essentially, and it's a franchise.
I'm listening.
And it's a flavor calendar. So you can find when they have a flavor of the day. My total addressable market is 100 stores. I could sell there are no more than 100 customers that I could sell this at. Maybe they end up franchising to more and it gets to 200, but that's a pretty small market. That changes how I approach it and how I price things. And I can't charge $10 a month, because then my total potential, if I sold it to 100% of the potential stores, it's $1,000 a month. Like that's not great. So it changes pricing model. It changes how I build some of the features. But yeah, I think we typically want to build something that's going to be, it's going to appeal to a wide enough market that if I could sell this to that's the typical venture capital thing, right? All I need is 0.1% of the market and I'll be a billionaire. But you count the potential market as, it's not the addressable market, like it is the total worldwide market for food. And you're like, well, you can't address that market. So yeah, I don't know. You got to balance. I have built some niche products that it's going to be really valuable for this small group, and I can monetize that, and I can build it very customized for them. And I built some other things that have a much wider, this volunteer management system How many volunteer organizations are there out there who use Sign Up Genius or Volunteer Hub or signup.com? So I think I've got a how do you guys address that? Do you look for a super large market or a highly valuable, monetizable, smaller market?
I mean, I feel like I used to have a better answer for this. The problem that I struggle with now is it's that because anything's possible, you can explore, you can prototype rather than just writing a pitch. You can try something, you can drop it into the market and see if it catches. And I haven't figured out the new balance for that, frankly, because the bottleneck used to be, an idea would be hard, right? It would be difficult to bring something to the market. And that was, in a lot of ways easier for me, actually, because, taking the time to do the research, to really truly understand, what that market could be, who the potential buyers are, where they are, all that was absolutely necessary. I think it is still important, but now you can get into this planning cycle where, you could just build something and drop it in front of people and see what happens instead.
Right.
How about you, Zach?
Yeah, you can do that. The question now is making people aware of your product and closing the deal. And the attention economy is really the thing that we're dealing with, not the logistics of actually building the product. And that's one of the things that strategically, the shift for GravityKit is okay, so as we all know, SEO is dead, long live GEO. But we're still not getting as much traffic to our website, which used to be the top of our funnel. So what replaces the top of the funnel? How can we change our strategy to get more people who are interested in the product? How does that affect? We're GravityKit. We're built on top of Gravity Forms. That's built on top of WordPress. Is that the stack that needs to happen for our customers to have the most success? Those questions become feasible to answer when you no longer need to spend years building out the software. It's a matter of months.
Yeah. I think the architecture, how you guys feel about software architecture side of things, I do think it's important that we set some good, as we build products, we set architectural standards or we build software in a good sound way, that we're not building software. I could build 10 apps this week, and each of the 10 apps structures things a completely different way. We need to build modular architecture. GravityKit has a bunch of different tools, so you got to be careful. Every tool has its own, own system for collecting data, or your own authentic. You'd want to standardize authentication. That's another thing that you'd want to do. So we've got to make sure that we're building things in a well-structured way.
And some of the value that we're going to be delivering to customers in the future is not the same value that we have, which is, before it was allowing people to display form data on their website and turn it into reports and exports and stuff like that. AI is making that a lot easier. So how can we address the next demands that they're going to have? And one of the things that we've done recently that I'm really excited about is working on our account page and getting the connections really stable and really good, and syncing up the licenses through the account so that we can unlock a ton of functionality that happens through syncing through our service, that no longer do you need to export and import. You might be able to sync through the GravityKit account. Nice. Things like that make people's lives easier, and then also AI's lives easier. So we add a CLI, a code-based layer, so that AI agents can understand how to do this stuff as well. It's just a completely different ballgame than, let me add the feature that people asked for, because hundreds of other people are doing it themselves and adding that feature already. You've got to think one layer up. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah, I'm thinking, as you're speaking, I'm thinking of a specific example I'm literally currently dealing with that I don't really know the answer to, which is, we have this access to a relatively big market with a product that's very, very well architected. Underneath the hood, you can do anything for the thing that it's for, and the problem that I'm facing with that is, as we're speaking to people, we have this constant stream of well, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. And we can do it all. We actually, because of AI, we don't have to pick and choose anymore. And that is actually the hardest problem that I'm facing, where, we got 30 PRs waiting for review right now, because every good idea is sitting in front of the team to make sure it's done. And from like tying that back to the strategy of like, yeah, so the fundamental architecture of the product itself was built the way we would have always built it, to allow somebody on this platform to do anything they need to expand upon it, to build it further. And the reality there is we used to put all these ideas into like a Trello board, and then into Shortcut, and then into Linear as we progressed. But now it's just code, because it's more fun to see what it looks like when it's working. And once you have it, you should just deploy it. I think that addresses the question, but that's kind of where I was thinking as you were talking through it, right?
Yeah, that's interesting you say, like the 30 PRs that are there. One of my engineers said to me one time, like, as we were early on getting into agentic engineering or using these AI tools, we're just shifting the work. Like now, instead of you asking me to build, you're asking me to review code. And code review is not as much fun for me as actually architecting and building. So what does that do? So it builds up this good idea backlog. That, to use a term, I think Zack had used that term to me earlier. That good idea backlog. Yeah. I mean, and also there's a backlog with bad ideas in it too. So how do you know which ones are good, which ones are bad? This is something that a challenge that we're facing. Have you guys built into any of your apps feature request forms? Because I feel like a feature request form and then up and down voting. Maybe what I've done is I've gotten someone to financially sponsor a feature. That's helpful. If you say, I'm willing to pay for this, and I say, well, it's going in, everyone's going to be able to use it. You're going to pay for the initial version, so you get a lot more say. How do you guys manage that? That's just one way that we've handled it.
Yeah, one of the things that we're playing around with the idea of is using, like, having our top tier of our license plan have a free request where they ask us to build it out. I mean, engineering a small feature request is so cheap. It's essentially free, especially if it's just like, well, this works for this one person. That's a lot lower bar than this is something that could be generalized and addresses 80% of the users. We don't have to think that way anymore. And that's part of what I'm interested in with the account page syncing functionality, which is like, okay, what if we were to have shared snippets, or we could that people can install and activate with the account page, that just, I don't know, people could vote on what their favorite snippets are. I know that a lot of other people have done this, but it just, thinking from the customer standpoint, like, I want something to change and I can immediately have it changed and it probably will work, is a nice thing.
Yeah. Well, and we always had the question of like, can you build it? Can it be built? Like, would you stand behind it once it's built? And like, should it exist? Like those three very simple, very dumb questions that I've always sort of applied to like any feature that we're looking at, basically, right? And the problem is we always had this artificial bottleneck of like, well, that's going to be 100 engineer hours. It's sort of like, that problem allowed us to sort of budget out and prioritize in a way that made sense to me. Like, I understood what to do with that problem. Now the problem there has moved to like, yeah, like you can review whatever, etc. But the bottlenecks moved to code review, but that is still much quicker. It's not 100 engineer hours or whatever. And so like, do you just add every feature? Do you just keep going? And like that, my answer so far has been yes. I'm worried about it, I guess is what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
You guys get less sleep now than you used to? Like, have you heard about the Jevons paradox? Jevon. This paradox that as we get this technology that drives efficiency, like, this is amazing. We're going to have radical abundance. We're going to just be able to sit on the beach. It's going to be so efficient. We're going to have less work. But the paradox is what actually seems to happen is that it's so efficient, we're just doing more work. And so I'm staying up later. I'm pulling more all-nighters. I am producing way more work than I used to. I may be spending twice as much time, but I'm producing 20 times as much work. That's a challenge. So yeah, where do you draw the line? Sometimes I need my wife to help me draw the line. Like, where do I like let it go? Enough is enough. Let me move on to the next set of features.
Yeah,
there were some questions here about, I don't know if you're
Melanie M6907 has a question. How do you adapt your strategy as AI is so rapidly evolving? That's a good question.
Do you guys have strategies for your product, like an overall strategy statement, vision statement for the organization? How do you handle that?
So kind of. We've recently realized that with AI being so moving so fast that we need to be better and more clear on our strategy. So we started having leadership calls last year where we really worked to say this is kind of the direction we're heading. It's been hard for me to have the bigger picture strategy stuff though. I like to meet our customers where they are and do what they need done, which is not really changed so far very much. But in terms of the adapting as AI is rapidly evolving, I think that the most important thing is the pace of development. Keeping up with that has resulted in our completely different workflow for the organization. It has resulted in us having to be more adaptable and going outside of our definitions. Like the support person is doing bug fixes and the QA person is doing marketing. We're all kind of doing more of everything, which leads to needing better communication. We had a team call earlier today where I just kind of said, hey, like, I know this is getting confusing. We're all kind of working together to try to understand what our roles are in this new evolving space, because AI is shifting everything. So I think it is more important to have strategy, and yet AI, for example, like being able to write code for free, that fundamentally changes the relationship our customers are going to have with us as they realize they can do that, and the service we provide will become more maintenance, support, like advising, things like that.
And the strategy is there, and we're using the old strategies where, like for example, support driven problems. We have this way of measuring them. It's called a fuse score. It's modeled off of what Intercom. There's blog post about a RICE score by Intercom where frequency, users impacted, severity, and effort. And you multiply the first three, you divide the fourth, and then over a certain threshold, you just do it. You just if enough it's very simple, very mathematical, where we apply this to every bug, feature, whatever logged via support, and that decides what gets done automatically before we keep track of what you could consider doing as like a secondary tier. Now, the actual strategy above that, though, which is what are we for? We have a very simple, people using our products should sell more tomorrow than they sold yesterday. That's it. And every feature you add, does it do that? Sounds very dumb, but the end, like if you actually apply that very dumb question to everything you do, then you can decide what to say no to very easily, actually, right?
Yeah.
But those two things are what has led to 30 PRs waiting, has led to, is this just going to result in 1,000 features that start confusing people eventually, right? Because the threshold has shrunk, so it's gotten so low to what you shouldn't do because the effort has gotten so low. Anyways,
Brad, what about you? How have you adapted your strategy?
Well, I would say, like you, Ian, like we've added a lot of new features, and so it seems like the settings page for our organizations and Zip sign up our volunteer management, every organization says, oh, I need this new feature. I'm like, okay, I'll just add that as a setting, because then it enables different organizations to toggle it on and off. We don't have split code bases, but then you end up with this massive list of settings that we eventually need to organize differently. So I like what you're saying about this very clear, we help people to sell more of their product. And if it doesn't happen, then is this going to help them sell more? Yes or no? Like if you can have that clear a message, that's fantastic. What we're trying to do is we're trying to close equity gaps, help people who don't have access, help organizations that don't have access to the best technology and design, make sure that they all have access to that best technology and design so that they can help more people, so they can close equity gaps. So I will look at it and say, is this client someone who has access already? They've got plenty of money. Sure, they could hire us, might be a good profitable client for us, but is this really serving our mission? And so that's one way that we do it. And that's to Melanie's question. I think if you've got really clear purpose around your mission, your vision statement, the strategy can flow naturally from that. So we always want to lean back to a vision and mission statement that really aren't changing. I'm still trying to do that, even with AI. It was, previously it might have been like page builders. Divi came around and Elementor, and that changed a lot for us and what we did from a marketing site design standpoint. Did it change our mission? No, it didn't. Like, there's still people who have and those who have not, and the people who have a designer on staff and so I think that having that purpose statement is really helpful. The strategy, I do think, needs to keep evolving. I don't think that AI totally changes the strategy. I think it's just the next thing that makes some of the services that we offer less relevant to some people. It's not totally changing our strategy. We are still looking for organizations that have less access than others. And the way that we approach that might change a little bit, but the purpose isn't changing.
Yeah, and I'd love to go to Matt's question, but I do want to double down on what you just said, Brad, that as you're speaking, I'm actually realizing that that's super helpful for me to think of it that way, of like, that very simple, the thing I called a dumb question for myself, like that, we just keep applying that, the answer should work out well. I think there's a secondary layer that I'm worried about I need to add or consider more deeply, though, of like, that thing that we're all doing where we're building our own software because it works perfectly for us. Is there a way for us to use the new tooling to create that feeling for more people with our products, so they feel as though it's custom built for them, even when it isn't? Maybe that's a secondary layer. Sorry.
The problem when you remove any caps to that. So one of the things that our vision statement, I guess, is helping people make sense, like do more with their form data. But that's Gravity Forms data inside WordPress. And when you remove the cap, it becomes form data for the whole universe. And so I think that it's important to keep a little bit of a focus on the vision. Or I guess, in business school, Brad, I didn't go to business school. It would have been good because I would have learned the difference. Like, vision it can be a big picture, like make a big dent in the universe, and then actual strategy and mission can be more focused than the vision statement.
Yeah, I mean, everyone defines those different. I look at a vision as what is that future picture? This vivid picture of how is the world different if we do our job well. And to me, that means that all businesses and organizations have equitable access to the best web and mobile technology. And because of that, because I want that to happen, that's not something that happens overnight. This is something that I'm going to work my whole life on, and it will never be fully achieved. But because I've got that vision statement, AI is incredible. Like, people say, don't you feel threatened? Like it's going to take away your developer's job. No, it's not. This is the most powerful technology of my lifetime that drives us further towards our mission, or towards our vision. That it's helping us to make technology accessible to organizations that didn't have it before. I mean, who would have thought that you could? You're not
limiting yourself to You're not trying to expand broadband internet access to people. You're like, how do you draw the line between expanding technology access? Like, where do you cut off?
Sure, yeah. One of our clients is Connect. Okay. There's a Connect Us coalition, and so that's a great example. So I mean, how do you draw those lines? We talk about design, development, and strategy, content strategy or business strategy. So that's what we do. I mean, there's the big vision. We're not going to fulfill that on our own. We need other partners to help. There's our mission statement. So we talk about believing in the power of innovation and entrepreneurship to make meaningful change in our community. And through design, development, and content strategy, we amplify the impact these innovators have on our world. So in our mission statement, we talk about more of what we do. Are you guys Simon Sinek fans? Start with the why.
I've heard of it. Yeah.
Starting with why. Why are we doing what we do? Yeah, it's like Apple. They say, we think different. They're empowering the thinkers and the change makers, and that's what they start with, rather than we build phones and computers. Right. And you might say, like, IBM would talk about the servers that they build and the specs, and we're going to talk instead about the why. So I don't know that I'm digging too far into the strategy.
Also says 1,000 no's for every yes.
Yeah, but it's like when you have that why, and that is like, I think start with why is why I also do think that my dumb question is based on, internalizing that advice a very long time ago. It's like, whether you believe it's like a moral good or not, it's a purpose. It's a thing that your company is for. And then from my perspective, the various products that we offer is a way for us to accomplish that larger goal. Now, of course, some are better than others. Helping entrepreneurs boost conversion rates is great. Helping, nonprofit organizations get access to the tools that they need to succeed is maybe a little bit more,
It might be
aligned. Yeah. But
we need
regardless,
jobs. We need an economy.
Right. So regardless, though, having that, like the reason for doing anything is wonderful. But then there is still like 1,000, 10,000, 1 million different ways you can do that underneath. And then regardless of AI, the biggest struggle that I think that it is that if you have the vision, there's so many ways you could do it. I think that the total addressable market question, though, is one of the ways to zero that down. Maybe we could bring up here with Matt.
So our co-host Matt Cromwell asks, I'd love to hear more from Brad about how he figures out total addressable market. How can you calculate the total addressable market without doing what Ian is saying, shipping experiments to see if anyone bites?
Yeah, I like your approach, Ian. I think that's okay.
So we benefit from being on marketplaces that already have customers. So we have audience when we do that.
Right.
But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
That's cool. That is helpful. Like if you could see a marketplace, how many customers are out there. There are a lot of ways to do that. So we work a fair amount with Rev1 Ventures. That's a startup studio here in Columbus. They do venture capital investing. They coach businesses. They've got incubator space. They talk about TAM, SAM, and SOM, total addressable market, serviceable addressable market, and then serviceable obtainable market. What could you actually obtain? Because I could say total addressable market for our software. There are, I don't know, just in Columbus alone, there's 17,000 nonprofits. But I could go to the country and I don't even know what the number is. There are, hundreds of millions probably of nonprofits around the country, or I could go worldwide. So you could go way too big with it. I do think it's important to look at that total, and not the total market, but the total addressable market, who reasonably could buy software, buy services, either products or services that we could use. So I don't know. There are a lot of public data sources. And Matt, I don't know how much you want me to get into the nitty gritty. I'm probably not the best person to help you calculate a TAM, but trying to understand who all could reasonably use your software. I think looking at who's using, maybe do you guys do any competitor research? Like who, you could definitely look at how many users are there of Gravity Forms. So that would be a way to do it. Yeah. But how do you guys do competitor research to know what is the market out there currently who I could take market share from, who are those who are not using anything but could use it?
Well, there's two ways that I try to think of that. Well, first of all, WordPress, we monitor as like a community. Everyone monitors, the percentage of the internet that it is. And then WooCommerce underneath that has, the built with data and just pure number of installs. It's all imperfect, of course, but, it's directional information. The value, though, of I narrow that down further to like looking at the Woo marketplace, like what percentage of products and estimated installs are we versus everybody else? And then what percentage do I believe this marketplace captures of all of that? Now, going to, 10, 12 different spreadsheets to eventually piece together something that I confidently know kind of sucks at the end of it all, because I have so many assumptions baked in. And yeah, it is still how I make every decision at the same time. Does anyone have a better answer? Maybe.
So I'll talk about maybe a better answer. It's not a better answer though, because it's what we're looking into a new product at GravityKit, and one of the things that we did initially was say, okay, does this help any of our existing customers or customers like our existing customers? The answer is yes. Would they pay for it? Are they interested in doing that? Do they want, are the features that we're planning on building features that they actually want and would pay for? That's the question. And we have a prior guest, Kevin Geary, who's talked about, you just put up a landing page, take their money, and if they pay for it, then build it. And if they don't build it and give their money back. I think that's a really swell idea because that proves that people want it enough to pay for it, because talk is cheap. So we sent out a survey to everybody, one of our customers, and asked them more about how they use their data, who accesses the data, the type of reports they want. That's all well and good. But the question of like, are you going to pay for this? And what would you pay for this? The proof is in the pudding, and Kevin Gary's approach, I think, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I think if you ask your mom, hey, Mom, what do you think? I mean, who's probably listening right now? What do you think about this idea I've got? She's going to say, that's brilliant. That's the best idea ever. If I ask a stranger, what do you think about it? That's a little bit better. But then if I ask a stranger, what do you think about my idea? And will you pay me right now? Get your credit card out. Will you pay me right now for this? It's maybe the opposite approach of a total addressable market. Because Rev1 did this for a while I think they still do a fair amount of this. Like, let's do market research, look at your total addressable market, boil that down and say, of that total addressable market, who could you actually serve? Like, you could address those with unlimited resources. Who are you actually able to serve? And then who do you think is reasonable, who actually will buy from you, that serviceable, obtainable market? That's one way to start with a really big audience and then narrow it down. But I think what you guys are saying, like, I like the approach of taking it the other way and saying, who is my first customer who is actually going to pay for this? And then you want to find some middle ground in there where you're saying, I'm going to find one customer who represents that serviceable, obtainable market or some part of the TAM, because you don't want to just always sell to one person. You want it to get bigger. But I think a lot of startups fail because they never get that first paying customer. If you're raising venture capital and that's your whole game, that's okay for a while to exit. But in the Midwest, I don't think we can afford to do that. You got to build a profitable business, not.
And the thing with WordPress, especially, is like we all already know where the gaps are. We know what the big products are. And like historically, I've done all this research to identify what we should build because, the math says it's the right answer. Historically, the things that have succeeded the most have always just been, this is hard right now. I'm going to make it easy. And that's what actually works. Forget all the research and all that.
But now, then that equation has changed with AI, where like everybody who has a knowledge of how to use Claude Code or similar is able to fix that themselves. So the pain of migrating, the pain of why should they not fix it themselves is the question that we didn't have to use to answer, and now we do.
Yeah, and so the bar is higher. So then these little prototypes to drop out to see if people will pay for them do less than they would have historically as well, right? So
how does that change how we're planning on what products we're actually building? Like, what is the strategy for building a product nowadays, given that AI is rapidly improving?
I think there's a big difference between building a product that is the average of all the products that are out there. And that's what AI models do, is they're making the best guess at the next thing that they should say, whether that's writing text or writing code. If I want something that looks like everything else and operates kind of like everything else, gives me that average, AI will do that for me. But taste and discernment, like someone who knows what looks good and what doesn't, and what works well and what doesn't, and can think a few steps ahead to think about scalability and how do all your products fit together, and that, the account page sync that you're talking about, like those things, AI is not necessarily going to come up with. If you want someone to think creatively for you, now, and I used to say, like, I love consuming experiences, like being out in the world and having different experiences, because then I can draw from those experiences to produce a product. Well, that's what AI does. It just consumes all the content and then gives you something, but it gives you, again, that average or that expected thing, not the thing that's unique. And so that's what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to use my taste to say, yeah, I could build something really quickly and just throw it up there, but what's going to make a very low friction experience for someone? What's going to be a very sticky experience that it gets them in? It's low friction, so they get in quickly, and then they love it so much that they want to keep using it over and over again. And I don't know. I think that's more of the approach of what I'm trying to build. Really sticky, low friction products that have a much better user experience than the average that's out there.
Yeah, I think that definitely rings true. And I was just Googling around trying to see it, but I think this was a talk Matt Cromwell, one of our co-hosts, did at PressConf. So I don't think there's a recording up, but it's really, several of these episodes just recently, like we had Vito Peleg on recently. We're seeing this thing where, the services and the product businesses, they're all sort of converging onto the same thing, which is just own the customer problem. Understand a specific type of problem for a specific type of person so deeply that regardless of how you fix it, you just do. And then the products are sometimes where the money comes from. Sometimes it's leads for the agency. The agency is sometimes the reason you're building the product. Sometimes, but like we're all sort of landing somewhere in the middle around that, where taste and discernment is the only thing left.
Yeah. Though here's something that comes up for me is I just fed a bunch of stuff into Fable, and recently there's a great new book out that I parsed into AI, fed it in, and said like analyze my strategy based on this. And one of the things it said was, Zach, you're like kind of lacking focus in general as a human. That is not a strength of mine, which is like, okay, I'm going to take this and I'm going to work on it for 9 months, like just head down, work on it. No, I like to do so many different things all at once. So like owning your strength as well, I think is something that I'm going to try to incorporate more with the age of AI. I can take 2 weeks and build a new product and see if it sticks, whereas that wouldn't have been possible before. And then I can move on and see, hand that off to our marketing team. So that's just kind of a thought idea I want to put out there. But then in terms of another thing that we've been shifting back to Melanie's question about how we're adapting to AI with our strategy, and what you were just saying with like focusing on nailing the customer experience, one of the things we're working on a lot is our demo sites and our onboarding, because we need to remove all the friction. So it's like zero friction. Click a demo, move it to your website, configure. It's already pre-configured for a lot of people. You click a pre-configuration thing and you can kind of tweak it with a few settings, not too many settings, until you get better at the product. Like all the stuff we've known this whole entire time about making users awesome, about how to build a product that's great. We know all this stuff. It's all the same stuff, but it matters so much more now that like the AI apocalypse is upon us.
Yeah. I've definitely gotten to those rabbit holes of late at night building more and more features. I mean, this is going to be amazing by tomorrow. And then the next morning I get up and I'm like, what did I build? Like I've got this Frankenstein of 100 features, or maybe they're all amazing features, but that's way too much. You need to make it.
So then the question is, okay, we built it. Somebody might want this. Maybe have it in your account page as something we can distribute.
Yeah.
And then if people are interested in it, then we pick it up, and that addresses the demand side of things, like Matt was asking about the total addressable market. How much do people want this? Well, you have data for SEO is one of the API endpoints we use a lot for studying how many queries people have about it. We go to Reddit, we find out whether Reddit has any posts about it. We go to WordPress.org, competitors' plugins, our plugins, look at all the reviews. Matt just did an incredible article about like finding out what works and what doesn't for plugin authors, and using reviews to substantively answer that. And then we build up, well, is this something people want based on those data points? And then it comes down to execution, and you gotta get that right. And Brad, we haven't really talked about execution and like the marketing and the attention and getting it out there.
Well,
how do you think about that?
As you're talking about get it out there for people, make it low friction, I was thinking about collecting data about the actual usage experience, because I think we do a lot on a marketing site. Of course, we put Google Analytics on there, we measure traffic, we measure conversion rates, but once someone's actually a customer, are we continuing to measure and collect data about how do they actually use the app? Do I care how many customers I got? Or do I care, most of when we sell, we're selling to an organization or to a group who is then using our volunteer management system with all of their volunteers and all of their attendees and participants. I need to care how those volunteers and participants experience goes. And so I need to collect data and understand that. So and to get to your question, Zach, it's I think some of how we're doing it, maybe not as much on the marketing side, but the onboarding side, I want to provide a concierge onboarding experience. I want to make sure that for the first few customers, you can't do this forever if you want to scale up, but I at least, do either of you guys use Superhuman for your email?
I have, yeah.
So I really liked their onboarding experience, where they You buy
That's
it
good.
and you pay an ungodly amount of money for email that's supposed to be free, isn't it? Like that, it's a different mindset. But I pay $30 a month for email, and they give me a one-on-one consultation where we go through my inbox. They help me set up all my inbox splits and rules, and then I come out of that with inbox zero. And it's, for a lot of people, it's probably like, this is the first time my inbox has been clear in years. That's what I want to do for our customers. I want to make sure that when they are onboarding, I thoroughly understand what they need. I help them to get set up. Ideally, I mean, Zach, you're probably farther along than I am. Like, ideally, it's easy, it's pre-configured, it's integrated. But at this stage, when we're just a few customers in, we want to make sure that we are holding their hand and giving them what they need. And all along the way, when they request a feature, we need to be very careful that we don't build absolutely everything that they request, that we prioritize, we put things in the backlog where necessary. But that's what we're trying to do, give them the concierge experience, make sure they're onboarded. And now we've got, when you get tens of thousands of dollars of ticket sales coming in and hundreds of volunteers that are checking in for events, I know that people are using the app, and that's the data we need to be collecting to learn from.
Yeah, we've been focusing on telemetry as well, making sure that we're asking the right questions with the telemetry that we're gathering, because if you put just a ton of telemetry in there without any questions, you're just going to not know what it means. And also the, shoot, I forgot the other part, but yes, 100% on the telemetry side.
Yeah, I mean, when you have that data on the ongoing users, I mean, I find that's the easy part nowadays, really, right? Like once, we don't have it for all of our WordPress plugins, of course, but where we do have proper telemetry, making sure that if someone uses the app or plugin longer, they are actually, there is measures of usage, whether it's the number of features or the depth of usage of certain features, that you're always driving up across the entire user base. I mean, that is, easier than ever, frankly. It is the 0 to 1, like getting them in the door. I think that's actually a problem that a lot of WordPress product makers actually have, where you sell a product for a price, and like there is no reason for somebody to upgrade or to expand over time. And I think that's severely limiting, especially now when the relationship with that user is all that matters. Right?
And we recommend PostHog, or I recommend PostHog. It's free to get set up. They have great suite of tools that you can use and integrate into your plugin. Of course, if you're on WordPress.org, you need to have opt-in so that people opt in. And ideally, any plugin, especially because of the WordPress, or because of the European rules around consent. And one of the numbers that I wanted to reference before is that we found that you have 8 days before people ask for a refund for GravityKit. And so that is our onboarding window. So we realized we needed to compress our email onboarding. We needed to really focus on that. And we're going to be working on that more. But like, that's an example of like, okay, if people don't have a smooth onboarding experience, they are going to want their money back. And Brad, I'm sure they have their first impression a lot, way sooner than that about whether or not they want to keep this product.
Yeah, sure. Do you know about retention? And so that's interesting that when they might request a refund, but then also thinking for someone who buys and they don't request a refund in those first 8 days, how long do they stay on average? And can you get ahead of that you start giving them a little bit more attention or something, new feature requests, rollouts, things like that, just before they.
Yeah, and we've recently coordinated all our different data sets into one big query database, and we're able to answer these questions a lot better and say, okay, we need 80 days before renewal, we need to reach out to them and make sure that they're happy. Like not 1 week, not 2 weeks, and obviously ideally throughout, but we need to maintain a touch with our customers more now that it's more important than ever to make sure that we're addressing everybody's needs.
I find that super helpful on our products to have like thousands of users, right? Where it's like you have the ability to identify these common trends, and with churn, you can have like, here's the 2 or 3 leading measures that when these things start declining, this is likely to happen, so you know what to address. We do have literally 2 products where we can do that in a way that feels vaguely scientific. You know what I mean? Like we're cause and effect, we
Vaguely
test things.
scientific.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, though, it's like so many of our products, we have hundreds of users, right? So like a lot of them. And in those cases, even when we have data, I don't find it super helpful. It really is more just signals from the inbox, signals from, outreach and discussing with users. Is there a way to do that better in like that time before you have like a significant data set?
That's a good question. I mean, talking as frequently as you can, it seems like. I think about the agency side of our business where we're working with customers on an ongoing basis. We do check-in meetings. We've got the initial business development process, the kickoff. We do a check-in mid-project to see how things are going and intentionally don't have the project team members in that. We want an unbiased, just please be candid with us. How is this going compared to how you thought before when you hired us, how you thought it would be going? So I mean, if you can get those sort of those touch points, do you guys ever do focus groups or other sort of
We have
feedback
some
sessions?
customers that we reach out to on a semi-regular basis and say like, hey, here's something we're building. We'd love your input on it.
Yeah, we do a few things. Like one, I mean, first of all, we have any of our newer products, we have like concierge onboarding, like you're saying, Brad, actually, which is we just do way too much in support, like literally to the point that they should pay us thousands of dollars and we're charging, $29 a month or something like that, which whatever, we're just going to keep doing it because it gets people talking to us. We have two other things we do though. One is I just have a calendar that floating around. Anyone on the team can send a calendar link to any customer at any time. Yeah. And I end up on calls with people that I've never heard of. I don't know what's going on. They are so valuable though. Like, it's one of the best things I do. I love it. And then the other one is we choose hero customers for certain products, and they don't know that they are that, which is literally we just pick people that this is a representation of who we believe this product is for. Usually we have at least one for every small product, usually 3, 4, or sometimes like for a feature within a product even. And like these people are named and the team knows who they are. And it's very important the customer does not find out that's who they are. But yeah, which is my best effort at sort of bridging that gap between what, the data can give me and what I can just gain from people, I guess. Yeah.
Right. That's cool.
Well, I'm afraid we are reaching the end of the show. We wrap up every show of WP Product Talk with a quick roundtable question. What's your best advice for anybody thinking about strategy when developing a product? Brad, how about you first?
Yeah, good question. So I don't think we specifically talked about this. So we talked about not building a product that's building a solution without a problem. It's just trying to solve an actual problem. I really like simple, lovable, complete. Most people probably heard of minimally viable products. The MVP came out of, Eric Ries talks a lot about it in Lean Startup. I think it was Steve Black before that, or I'm probably misquoting that. Anyway, the MVP is a concept, but it leaves things feeling minimally viable. It's barely alive. Yeah. I don't love that. The simple, lovable, complete, or a slick, SLC, slick product, I really like that. So I think too many founders try to build something, and I fall into this trap as well, try to build something that does everything for everyone, or even just does everything for one person. I like to build products initially that do one thing for one person, and that one person needs to be representative. It's simple. It doesn't include too much. It's lovable. They absolutely love using it. They will keep coming back. It solves some sort of problem for them, and it's complete. It feels like this solves a problem. Then hopefully they will say, I love this and I'm going to keep using it. It's delivering value for me. I would love another feature, and I would love something else. And then you can grow it from there. So I would say really try to hone in on, from a strategy standpoint, back to Melanie's question, who are you serving and who are you not serving? Because it's really important. A lot of people just skip over that. Who am I not serving, or what will I not do? Draw those lines, build a simple, lovable, complete product, and get someone to pay for it. But until you've done that, until you get someone to pay for it and you've got that simple, lovable, complete product, you're probably going down a quest that may never end, and it's probably not going to end with much money if you don't find someone to pay for it.
I love the lovable part of it, because that also suggests being opinionated and having personality in your software, which is really cool. Yeah. Ian, what's your best advice?
Yeah, I'm actually just thinking this through. This has been a helpful conversation for me. So sorry to the listeners. I'm just asking questions that I need help with at this point. But my immediate thought here is that, I mean, we always had this, we knew what the product was for. We knew what measures we were tracking to know if we were successful or not. I think the thing that I'm going to experiment with, and this is not advice so much as, I'm going to experiment with this. And if this is something that resonates, please reach out to anyone listening, which is I'm going to look at for our bigger products, the threshold where we consider actively removing features, how far, if we can move faster, we should. How do we offset the risks that introduces? And I don't know if I've ever really considered that, but, be willing to reconsider your predefined ways of thinking is maybe my advice then.
Yeah, one of the things, Ian, that we're talking about doing is having, we haven't really talked about it as a team. Talking about in my noggin is having different levels of settings exposed to people, and progressive enhancement is one of the things that people have talked about forever. It's another best practice, and yet WordPress products sometimes slap a bunch of settings in there, like Brad was talking about. So just not showing people as many options until they need them is a really nice idea. And my best advice,
that idea of pruning is something that AI never does. It always adds.
But here's the thing with WordPress, back compatibility is such a pain in the neck, and it becomes a lot easier if you have a SaaS product and you just say, well, we removed this product. Well, did anybody else build code on it is the question that you have to ask in WordPress. Do people rely on this setting? It's a huge pain in the neck.
And for a product that's been around 10 or 12 years, there's, spacebar heating. There's people that are using things that were never intended to even be in there in the first place. And, you maintain them anyways because they've been there the whole time. And, they're auto updating, and I could gripe on this one for another hour, but.
So my best advice, I'm with Ian. This has been really helpful, Brad, just like thinking strategically about strategically thinking. So I'm glad to have had this conversation. My best advice for anybody out there is to think more about what is your goal for your business as well. Like, it's easy enough to say, like, help people report on their form data and stuff like that. But being clearer on that is always a good idea, like a target customer, a target mission for that customer.
Yeah, I would say, I don't know if we typically assign homework to people. Check out Start With Why if you haven't read it already. And Brad brought up the Jevons paradox. Strongly recommend reading up on that if you haven't already. It's probably one of the most relevant things to developers in the age of AI out there.
Cool. Well, that's
thank you. I enjoyed talking to you guys about what you're doing because it gives me insights about how we approach things. But I appreciate you entertaining the topic of strategy and how you plan before you actually build so that you're building something worthwhile.
Well, thanks so much for joining us, Brad. Where can people find you online?
Sure. You can find me, buckeyeinnovation.com is our website. You can find us on Instagram as well, Buckeye Innovation. You're welcome to email me if you've got ideas or want to continue a conversation, particularly around our mission. If you're trying to serve people through nonprofits or local government, I'd love to have those conversations. I love to rapid prototype something on a call, the joy of AI. Yeah. But feel free to drop me an email, brad@buckeyeinnovation.com.
Yeah, awesome. And if you're enjoying these shows, folks, do us a favor, hit the subscribe button here on YouTube. It is free, easy, and helps support the show. Oh, a special thanks again to Freemius as well.
So y'all, WP Product Talk is off for the next 2 weeks due to WordCamp US, but we will be back on September 2nd for building better product sites for WordPress plugins and themes with Imran Sadiq. So put that on your calendar, and until next time, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, everyone.